Okay. All right. Are we ready to start with roll call? Okay, please.
Amy Riddle Swanson.
Here.
Mark Hillman.
Here.
Angie Skillings. Here. Carl Palmer.
Here.
Abe Smith.
Here.
Dominique Stewart.
Here.
Rachel Henderson.
Here.
Amber Kirsting.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The school district of the Menomonie area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Do we have any proposed revisions to the agenda order this evening? Seeing none, we will move on. Do we have any recommendations and commendations? Oh, shoot. Oh! All right. Keela drought! Okay. Come on up. Sorry. I'm excited to give this one. Keela Drought is a principal who always asks what she can do to help. Keela is very visible at Oakland as she spends lots of time in classrooms where she reads to students and always wants to jump in and learn alongside the students. Lastly, Keela is always willing to lend a helping hand at recess, lunchroom, and by covering classes. Oakland students and staff thrive due to Keela's support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well deserved. And Rachel, I just want to point out, Keela is an excellent interview for either halftime of the football games or intermission of the hockey games. She loves to brag about Oakland Elementary School and so many other things that she's involved with in our community.
Hopefully she still sometimes writes about gossip.
She does.
We miss her. All right, next up we have our January highlight on youth.
So in board docs available for all the public to see is the January highlight on youth. As you can see, it was a very engaging and festive last month in the school district. My favorite highlight was when the middle school music department came here to the ASC, and this whole room was filled. If you can just imagine, us administrators and other office personnel were sitting in the seats there, and up here were all the students playing. We had an orchestra presentation. There's a few songs. The band played, which was pretty loud in this room, and we also had some carols sung by the choir. But that's just some examples, and you can see in the highlight on youth that there were so many great activities of students' involvement. And I know that we like to talk about student success, and much of our success in the school district is very important that we measure student achievement and student growth on academics, but student success also with all the different activities that they are involved in. It is just something that we can be really proud of as well. So I guess I'm not going to go through and read each of these. You can kind of view it on your own, unless board members, there's anything else you want to point out. But great job to all of our students, staff, families. Excellent month in the school district.
That is in the public content for people that aren't here that want to look at it.
Correct.
Thank you. And next up, we have our student representatives communications. Take it away.
Good evening, the members of the school board. I'm Max Boer. I'm the student body president, and this is Dea. She is the student body vice president. We are honored to present some remarkable updates from the student body that highlight our vibrant school community.
Let's begin with Cabin Fever. This year's Cabin Fever festivities will be kicked off on January 20th with our winter formal dance. The week of the 22nd will include several games encouraging student participation and keeping our school spirit high after a long week of finals.
Our school's men's volleyball tournament, co-hosted by DECA, is scheduled for Wednesday, January 24th. This event isn't solely about sports, but also aims to raise funds for the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Additionally, we're excited to announce the Unified PE basketball scrimmage during the study hall on the same day. This event will demonstrate solidarity and support for our Unified PE students.
DECA has been incredibly active. Firstly, the Letters to Santa campaign was a resounding success with 426 letters collected, resulting in Macy's contributing $852 to Make-A-Wish. Also, our DECA district competition at UW Stout took place this past Saturday with 47 students aiming to qualify for the state level. 18 students placed and 4 were finalists.
Moreover, their Candy Cane Grand fundraiser raised $59 for Make-A-Wish. This event's success has inspired them to make it an annual tradition.
Moving on to our MHS concert chorus, students participated in the Dorian Vocal Festival at Luther College. Their collaboration with hundreds of choral students and renowned conductors was an enriching experience.
The MHS forensics team stands strong with 44 members gearing up for a competitive season. Their dedication makes them one of the most prominent teams statewide, aiming for success at the state level.
And finally, the MHS Art Department's outstanding achievement. 17 students' artwork will be published in the Celebrating Art Contest book, showcasing their talent on a national platform.
We're immensely proud of our students' accomplishments and are grateful for the continuous support of the school board. Thank you for your attention and your encouragement.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for those updates. It's great to hear everything that's going on at the school.
If you don't mind, I'd also like to add just a couple other things. I believe it was Science Olympiad was at Marquette, Milwaukee Marquette this past weekend, competing. I know that I saw Mrs. Topper's tweets. Several students received awards at that competition in Milwaukee. Also, DECA was at was a state level competition.
It was the district one.
Okay, yeah, so you mentioned that. Also with fundraising, the hockey program had a Stick It to ALS night last Tuesday, and between Menomonie and Chippewa Falls, they raised over $4,000 in support of the fight against ALS. And it was really strange, and I don't know that much about hockey, but I agreed to broadcast the game. For the ALS awareness, the hockey players from, what's so funny? Shot the goal, that's all you gotta say. Icing ones, but I did learn from Ren Swanepoel several hockey terms. But anyway, the color for ALS awareness is red. So the Menomonie kids were wearing special red jerseys because of ALS awareness night, but they're playing against Chippewa Falls, who the Cardinals, they're always red. So Chippewa Falls was wearing white, Menomonie was wearing red, and it was a great game. As I said, they raised over $4,000, and Chippewa Falls was involved with it as well. So great job to both schools, both communities, and thank you all for your update tonight.
Thank you. Next up, we have community communications. I just have one tonight, although since you were late getting started, actually I don't think anyone else is here, but if anyone needs to turn in a sheet last minute, they may. Otherwise, Josie Pullman is up.
I am Josie Pillman and I live in Knapp. Dr. Zadowski and members of the board. Education is about teaching the truth. As a school board, one of your primary responsibilities is to carefully monitor what is being taught in the Menomonie School District. Are facts being taught truthfully? Is math being taught accurately? Is the English language being handled in a proper way, respecting the rules of grammar? Is biology being taught according to natural observation? Are theories being presented as theories until proven otherwise? Is human sexuality taught with honesty, purity, in a way that does not embarrass the students? Is history taught according to what really happened? Is patriotism encouraged? Are character qualities like kindness, humility, honesty, punctuality, respect, courtesy, and good sportsmanship given high regard? Are negative qualities like selfishness, greed, sexual confusion, immodesty, jealousy, plagiarism, anger and strife, cheating, stealing, disrespect for your authorities, and any kind of sexual perversion rejected as wrong and thus unacceptable? Most concepts are caught more than they are taught. Do you evaluate your professionals regarding how they are doing at influencing our students to learn truth by modeling it themselves? School board, how often do you have Dr. Zadowski evaluate the character of the professionals? What process do you use to raise the bar when you are needing to hire new professionals? Teaching is a very challenging profession. What character standards do you have at SDMA? Library books and curriculum also influence our children. What standards do you lay out for our professionals to select the best educational material? Remembering that we can only have a limited number of books in school libraries, how do you ensure that only the best, the most moral and truth-telling books are in? Some books that do not teach truth, or that are immoral or unkind or evil, must stay out to make room for the best. What standards do you have to ensure that only the best are in? What process do you have to hear the concerns of parents or community when standards are not satisfactory? As a school board, one of your primary responsibilities is to carefully monitor what is being taught and taught in the Menomonie School District schools. As a community, we would like to be able to trust your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our monthly revenue and expenditure reports.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at the revenue report first, so if you'd like to open that up. And again, this is through December 31st. In the General Fund 10, we received it in revenues for state aid, some local revenues, and then also some revenues from grant sources. So the total revenues received through the end of December are just over 3.9 million in the general fund. In Fund 21, our donation fund, we received it in $251,455.61. And then in special education, we've received in some local funds and also state aid and some grant payments. And that totaled $317,343.59. One thing I do want to note, if you take a look kind of up towards the top, there's a line item for interest. So far, we've received it in $245,000 in interest this year, which is already what the budget was. And so I anticipate a pretty good sizable increase over this amount through the end of this school year. Interest rates are high. We have our excess funds, especially in the maintenance account, or not maintenance, but capital improvement account. Those funds are invested in CDs and are getting higher rates of interest return on them. So I just wanted to let you know that our interest rates are doing really well. The next report we'll take a look at are the expenses by object. Through the end of December, this year we're at 29.33% compared to 31.10%, and that is across all funds, not just the general fund. And then the last report, the expenses by function. If we take a look first at the general fund 10, this year we're at approximately 29.62% compared to 30.98%. And then in special education, we're at 33.95 compared to 33.61. And also food service fund 50, we're at 33.95 compared to 35.57. So some up, some down, but very, very similar to the same time in previous years. And nothing out of the ordinary other than timing of bills. Any questions?
Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our monthly employment report.
This is an informational item for the board. As you can see, there are 6 new hires and 4 resignations to report from staffing in December.
Any questions from board members about the employment report? Seeing none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
All right, motion by Amber, second by Dominique. We have minutes from our regular board meeting of December 11th. Financial reports, including general fund checks in the amount of $2,376,468.54. and cash receipts in the amount of $89,677.65 for December of 2023. There are no donations exceeding $1,000 at this time. We also have the WIA Girls Hockey Co-op Agreement and a cooperative agreement between the School District of Menomonie area and Eau Claire School District regarding special education services, right?
Yes.
All right. Any questions or comments or discussion on the consent agenda? I asked Joe about this before, but I think that the two co-op agreements are renewals of what we've done in the past. Is that right? So nothing new that we're looking at here.
Yes.
Let's vote.
I'm probably gonna need to do a voice vote because my security made that date right now. So yes, I do.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Next, we have the personnel consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda.
So moved, Abe.
Second.
Second by Carl. We have a couple of resignations, or a couple of retirements and a resignation. Do you want to say anything?
Other than just, we really appreciate the service of Mrs. Rowland, Mrs. Siegley, and Mrs. Pelkey, many years of education, and wish them well in their retirements.
They're all three retirements, I misread. Any questions or comments about the personnel consent agenda? Seeing none, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to our action agenda. Our first action is to approve the early risers assistant position. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Abe.
Second.
All right. Do you want to say anything right away, or?
Sure, and I know Mr. Kennedy came in case there's questions, but this is a self-funded program, and we want to be able to serve as many kids and families as possible. And Mr. Kennedy feels that this will be funded through the revenue of the program and will allow us to serve more kids. But if you have any questions, Mr. Kennedy can answer them.
Is this program tied to Title I in some way, or is it have an independent? What are the qualifying conditions, if there are any?
No, there's no Title I connections at all. It's just a self-funded based on historical needs.
How long has this program been in place?
It's been in place as long as I've been here. This is my 5th year in the district. I know I was here for a number of years before that, but I guess I'm not certain how many years.
Tonya, you said long, I said.
I've been here, 11? It's been here way before me, so predates us.
Predates everybody in this room in terms of our current positions.
I think it's been going too for my 16 years.
This was a question I had already asked and answered, but I was curious. And River Heights is the only site in the district that has early risers right now. So.
I believe so.
Very successful program.
Yes, very helpful.
Supports.
As someone who used to be in a room near where that happens, I fully support adding as many staff as you need. Because it's important to have a good start to the day.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also just want to voice my support. I think this is a great service that we can offer families. I think it's really important to have a school in the district that does this. So I'm fully happy to add another assistant.
Since this program is self-funded, I'd be curious in the future if there's demand to other sites, because this is certainly something which, working families needing, extra time, morning, it's a difficult time, that time before school starts for a lot of families. So I don't know what the parameters that are, but I would imagine there are similar needs at other sites.
Yeah, I think that's something we could look at in the future. I know we did some work with expanding after-school programming, but there's also different factors in different parts of the community related to daycare availability, but that'd be a larger discussion.
Any additional questions or comments? All right, let's vote. Carl, do you still need a voice vote? You're good, okay. Nope. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks for being here, Mr. Kennedy. All right, next we have our action to approve reorganization excuse me, of school nutrition staffing. I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
A second.
Motion by Carl, second by Dale.
As it states in the background, work by the school nutrition department along with HR has brought this proposal to you. We do anticipate that at the end of the day, this proposal some dollars, but really what it comes down to is changing needs in the food school nutrition program based on moving more scratch cooking to the school site instead of the centralized location of the high school. Also just with the way the job markets are and what we think the hiring pools are for availability, that's also led to this recommendation. So I have reviewed it. I agree with HR. I agree with our school nutrition director. This is a good move, and we request school board approval. Any questions?
I apologize ahead of time, but what is the nature of the previous contract with Cooley Connection? Like what did that involve? If we don't have time.
I don't know a whole lot, but we supplied lunches to Cooley Connection. So there were students that were there on site, and so our nutrition department was in charge of putting together, I think there were like box lunches and getting them to Cooley Connection for lunches for their students.
So it was a loss of a catering contract, which meant there's no longer duties associated with that.
That fully answers my question. Thank you.
I know the food service program is essentially entirely self-funded in Fund 50. Is this wage counted in that Fund 50, or is this a separate?
It's in Fund 50.
Okay. So the difference between these two positions, the one that's outgoing and one's incoming, is going to be maintained in Fund 50.
It's all going to be in Fund 50, correct?
Thank you.
Just a small question. So it says reducing the hours of the elementary production cook would move that position to non-benefits eligible. Is the person in that role currently taking benefits?
There's a vacancy right now, which
Okay.
allows us to work out well.
That brings me to another question, though. Will it be hard to fill that vacancy without having an insurance option?
Actually, that was part of the thinking with this. Sam, why don't you go ahead?
So we actually have been able to move one of our food service workers into this position. So it allowed for someone to receive a promotion or expanded employment. And so there's no concern there.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of filling it, I think actually filling it might be easier in this realm than if it was the other way around.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions about the staffing adjustments? If not, let's vote. All right, and motion passes. Next up, we have an action to approve the 2023-2024 budget revisions. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve those budget revisions.
All right, motion by Dale, second by Amy. Thank you. Leah, are you going to give us?
Yeah, the board received a report at the December meeting. Since then, Leah has continued to update it. But budget revisions come to the board every year in January for your approval. And Leah, can you go ahead and talk about them, please?
Sure, I have them all listed. The changes are highlighted in yellow on the report. Majority of those changes are revisions to grants that happened. There were a few other ones, like increasing the investment interest, the technology recycling revenue increased slightly. We also had some requests from school sites to move funds around. And lastly, Fund 46, we reviewed the 30-year capital plan and adjusted that budget according to the projects that were actually able to be scheduled this year. So everything is highlighted in yellow. The budget includes the net impacts. Down below I had a paragraph of the various funds and how those overall totals changed. Any questions?
So unless I'm misreading this, which I might be, it looks like there are small decreases in both Title IV and Title I funding. And I was wondering if you could say, if you know why that is.
Sure. In Title IV, there was slightly less less funding due to less carryover from a prior year. So each year grants at the end of the year, there's typically carryover of funds from one year to the next. We had a decrease in Title IV carryover because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In those years when the pandemic happened, a lot of activities were put on hold and those funds weren't spent, and so the carryover increased, and so you have 2 years to spend that down, and so that was spent out last year. And so that's why we have less funds this year. Yeah.
Any other questions about the budget revision? All right, if not, we vote on this, right? Yes, we can vote. And motion passes. Next, we have a lot of opportunities for making motions tonight, everybody. Action to approve the number of regular and special education spaces available for open enrollment. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second, Amber.
Thank you.
This was reviewed closely by the board in December. Tony, have there been any changes since then?
No, there have not been any changes. So this is anticipating open enrollment. The window for open enrollment opens up February 5th, goes to about April 30th. So families that live outside of our district can apply for open enrollment. So we use this when we make determinations to either approve or deny those requests for open enrollment.
So it's what the board reviewed in December, and we're requesting your approval.
I realize this is slightly outside the scope, but I'm curious when it comes to open enrollments at the middle school or at the elementary school level, how the district manages placement at the 5 different elementary schools and even sort of with inter-district enrollments.
So as you can see in here for our elementary, if the student is a regular and student does not have an IEP, we approve that. However, their letter does say that even though we approve them, it really is our final decision for placement at a particular elementary school. When families After they get approved, they actually get a letter sent to them saying whether or not they're planning to attend or not attend, so they can return that. And with that, they're able to select a school choice at that time. Some will put one school, some will put multiple, some families will put multiple schools. And then we kind of hold on that, if they are approved, and we really don't make that final determination in placement until after, closer to the end of the school year, where we tell a family you're approved and you actually are approved for the school that you're choosing to go to. And so what plays with that is we look at class sizes, you know, in our buildings. And then we also have our in-district transfer requests. Meaning if you're living within the district and your boundary might be River Heights, but you as a family want to go to Wakanda, you can request that for an in-district transfer. Actually, we're working on that currently right now to open up that portal for the 24-25 school year. So we're working on that. And our first selection and our first kind of review of that is in May. That the elementary principals come together, they meet, they look at the in-district transfer requests, they look at their class sizes, we also look at the open enrolled students that are coming in and what requests that they're making, and try to make a determination. Many times, this is all, sometimes it's guessing, because we don't know, families move in the summer, and we make our best guess to approve or deny those, and sometimes we're accurate and we can guess what those class sizes look like, and sometimes we're not. So we try to make our best guess at that time with the information that we have at that time.
I see in the Oak Lawn report that they had several new students added recently.
Yes.
They're not open enrollment.
No, these are students that have moved. It's typical that we will see movement over the winter holidays, so families move over that time. And so these are families that have moved into the district, into the Oak Lawn attendance area.
And so do you have, so if they request Oak Lawn, you kind of give it to them, or?
Well, they don't have to request it. If they live in the Oak Lawn attendance area, that is their school that they attend based on where they live. So if a family, let's say if it's a high class and a family would request that, most likely that would be denied based on those class sizes, if they're high. So,
If they were requesting to come from a different attendance
yes,
area.
but the families if we've had several new enrollments and they are attending the school based on where they live, based on those boundaries, those attendance boundaries.
So it's only Oak Lawn seeing these?
Oh, no.
No.
You wouldn't believe the mobility nowadays. It really is something.
You're going both ways, we're losing?
We've seen some.
We gain more than we lose
Yes.
during the school year.
I would say even today, I think we had 3 families come in and enroll today. So, yes, there is movement there.
Okay, thanks for that detail, I appreciate it. Yes, any other questions on the open enrollment seats available? If not, let's vote. And motion passes. Next, we have an action to approve revisions to policy 451.2 regarding student immunization. This policy was reviewed in December, but I think there are some text updates, is that right?
Yeah, the board did review this. Tonya, do you want to just talk about the changes from last
For
time?
the student immunization, there were no changes that we made, not to this policy. The next one that we will talk about, there were some revisions to that one.
Great, thanks, sorry about that.
Yeah, no.
Any questions about policy 451.2?
I'd just like to point out, because I did get a few questions about this. Really, we've already had a student immunization policy on the books. And really, the major change is just identifying what the district's responsibility is in terms of notifying parents and guardians. That's the big thing. It's not that we're requiring a bunch of new immunizations or anything like that. So if anybody's concerned about that, that's not what this is about. This is simply detailing the process that we have and the requirements we have for notifying parents.
If there are no questions about this, we can go ahead and vote. Did I skip?
Oh, you have to do a motion?
Did we not do a motion?
So moved.
Sorry.
I'll use the restroom.
Okay, motion by Abe. Second by Mark, thank you. And I apologize for that. All right. Now we'll vote. Okay. There. We have one more item on the action agenda after this, and then we'll take a really short recess for board members to stretch.
I'm trying to move it through.
Oh, okay, sorry, motion passed. Oh, there it is. All right. Action, last item on the action agenda, action to approve policy 453, administration of medication to students, and I'll entertain a motion now.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dale, second by Abe. Now this one has some
Yes.
changes.
So this is a new policy. Again, this is kind of coming out over some of the requests that we have seen from families. So Amy, our school nurse, felt that it was important that we kind of had a medication policy on the books. As you can see, the red is what I added new. I think the big one is about students who, that the exception to carry medication, and there are some exceptions to students like housing their medication in the school health office. Things like insulin, which would make sense, inhaler, EpiPen, that some students would have the ability to carry their medication with them. And then some students also self-administer that medication.
Any questions about this policy?
No, I think that language does the job
Yep.
nicely. Just ticky-tacky after EpiPen parentheses, it needs a comma.
Okay, yep, we can
Just for
add
the
that
late
if we
public,
want.
Epi and insulin are one med.
Nice catch.
I'm curious, are inhalers, epinephrine, auto-injectors, insulin, and glucagon the only possible exceptions? Or
Right now, that's what Rainey, when talking with Rainey, our school nurse, that's what she feels comfortable with. Now, we've had in her realm of meeting with other school nurses around the area, they're actually starting to have more conversations about just that, what other exceptions are. And so right now, I think I want to do what Rainey, because Rainey is really the one overseeing this. And right now, this is where she's comfortable. If it changes, this would be something that we could come back to the board and add. If we needed to add other things to that area, we could certainly do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Any other questions on this policy? New policy? All right, let's vote. All right, and motion passes, so we will recess for 5 minutes. Right.
for myself and Dale.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Right, let's resume with our discussion agenda. Our first item here, we have the clerk's report on the 2024 school board election. Oh, sorry.
3 candidates have filed to run for the 3 open seats in the spring election, and it's scheduled on April 2nd, 2024. The drawing of names for the ballot order was on January 5th, 2024 at 9 a.m. in the boardroom of the ESC here. Carly Price drew lots to determine the ballot order. Jenny Mikesell and Joe Zadowski were observers in attendance for the drawing. The registered candidates will appear on the ballot in the following order: Emily Hines, Angela Wolf, and Michelle Dupree.
Okay, thank you for that report, and thank you for all the candidates who will be running.
And Rachel, that also means that Mark, Angie, and Carl, they'll be ending their terms after the regular meeting in April. So after the second Monday in April, they'll no longer be joining us. So thank you, all 3 of you, and I'm sure we'll have to send off before you go, but thanks for your work on the board.
Fake.
Yes, I agree. Thank you very much. All right, next we have a review of the 30-year capital improvement plan.
So Kevin Tomaszewski's been here patiently waiting. Kevin is our Director of Buildings and Grounds, and all of his years here, we've never had this long of a meeting prior to Kevin being able to speak. And we do have snow in the forecast for tomorrow morning, although not nearly as bad as southern Wisconsin. But anyway, Kevin, if you want to go ahead and talk about your work working with Leah and other people to update the report, that would be great.
So starting out, I would like to give just a quick recap on the prior years. Hopefully my voice holds in there. I have a little something myself. So looking back to the 22-23 projects, I'm happy to say we are done and under budget for the overall projects. The only work left to do is a little bit of concrete repair between the ticket booth and the new concessions building at the field house, and that's just due to a spill by the contractors. So they have agreed to come back when the weather allows to replace that section of concrete. As far as this year's projects go, our complete projects are the Oak Lawn hand wash stations. Those are in and functioning. The blacktop maintenance at River Heights and Knapp are also complete. Middle school flooring, we have that scheduled to take place over spring break. So I think we're going to start on Tuesday, spring break, which will give us enough time to vacate all the offices and then put everything back until we resume the following week. Then the middle school door project. All the supplies are in, with the exception of the glass for that work. I'm guessing that the project will kick off later this week or possibly next week. High school pool renovations, we're getting pretty close. We talked about this one a few times now, but repairs to the floor, new tile, filtration system, bleachers, exterior caulking between the precast panels. The bidding documents for that go live next week, so that's right around the corner as well. Also at the high school, the elevator project, probably 95% of the supplies are in, and we're waiting on contractor availability, so that's right around the corner, and that work can take place during the school year, so there won't be a disruption to the students. And then finally, Katie and her team have a few projects in the works. The district staff desktops, the technology infrastructure, and admin teacher places, along with technology upgrades that are all in process or starting soon. Next, I just wanted to note a couple of larger changes that I made to the actual spreadsheet for the 30-year plan. First being a door replacement schedule. This is just like what we're doing at the middle school shortly. I've added that to all the schools. They're all going to need doors eventually, so I put that replacement schedule in. Then at the high school, I hadn't planned on any LED work in the near future, but I would like to bring the gym LEDs up to next year. And I'll talk more about that in just a bit. So the recommended projects for the next year starting in July.
Kevin, can I just pause real quick, because I held a question on the budget revision. there was a $98,000 something pushed higher on the budget because something wasn't, what was that?
That was a combination of,
It was capital pushed.
it was a combination of several projects, either not happening or the bid came in lower than what, so it was just a reduction to this year's budget.
So are those projects that are complete just different, or they just spill over into this, what you're gonna talk about now? If there were pieces missing, you couldn't finish it, does that become part of
Correct.
24?
Yes.
Yeah, any unspent funds out of Fund 46 stay in Fund 46.
And any unfinished project carries over into the next year.
Yeah, I was thinking just more that the work item itself is,
Yeah, so it doesn't go completely off the table. There have been a couple small instances like sidewalk repairs that we'll put it on the plan, but come spring, it didn't move much. Okay, we can bump that ahead 2 years,
Okay.
for example.
so those weren't things that were this level of, I got it.
So for recommended projects, 24, 25, cameras, we're looking at about 20 replacement cameras throughout the district. We have a large estimate there. As of right now, there's a little more work to do, but we might be looking at some server replacements for that project, which will drive that price up a little bit towards that estimate. We're hoping we're gonna come in much lower than that. Technology infrastructure, network equipment at Oak Lawn and the high school, as well as some maintenance to the network. Wakanda building envelope. So I think Steve and I, our energy manager, are going to take a field trip over there during spring break, take a thermal imaging camera, and see what we can do with that dollar amount to tighten up the building. Basically, our goal is energy conservation for the building. River Heights doors. This would be one of the new projects, similar to what we're doing at the middle school. I would like to replace the doors in the gym and the cafeteria. Excuse me. Middle school HVAC, looking to replace some heating lines, and this would be from the upper mechanical room near the gym to the gym. So short stretch of heating lines that are giving us some issues with frequent leaks. Middle school blacktop maintenance. This is work that we do pretty much every summer at different locations, sealing cracks, painting lines. So we're looking to do that at both the middle school and the high school this coming year. Middle school LEDs. This location stays on the top of the wish list for LED retrofit. To go along with their new solar array, the goal is to reduce their electrical consumption, which would basically put us from a large consumer down to a small consumer, change the billing format from Excel, and save us on our monthly electric bills. And then finally at the middle school, bleachers. Our yearly inspections are showing that the bleachers need some work, so we're looking at a couple placement of some of the boards that you would be seated on, as well as some of the hardware that's underneath, behind the scenes, just to kind of a rebuild, if you will, to keep those bleachers safe and functionable. Over at the high school, this is the one that I'd like to bring forward, the LED. This is for the gym. What we're finding is the fixtures in the gym are beginning to fail. Unfortunately, we don't have any spare fixtures, and they are obsolete. So our only option, in my opinion, is a complete retrofit, because if we start mixing and matching fixtures in the gym when the students are competing in games, I think it's gonna be a distraction. I think we could probably get close, but with the amount of fixtures failing, I would recommend a complete change in the gym area. Then last at the high school, technology upgrades. This would be for classroom displays and auditorium projectors. That's all I have for the recommended projects.
Question about the cameras. Does that refer to like security cameras or cameras that are used for like, learning use? Security. Oh, thanks.
How much do you guys anticipate saving with those LED fixtures over what's in the gym? Has that numbers been run, electricity use?
So they're already in the gym. It's just that those particular fixtures are failing. At the high school,
Yeah.
they're LED now.
Oh, it's the same?
Yeah.
Okay. We wouldn't see much energy use difference? Okay.
Not an application.
But I think the ones at the middle school were the change out from fluorescent, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you guys remember, Charlie Schneider talked a lot about that opportunity we have at the middle school to get below that building line, I guess, would be the way, I don't know what it's called, peak demand or high demand, but.
Yeah, our goal is to stay under 200 kilowatts of usage at that location. And with our e-gauge now, we can watch that second by second, actually, how much that building is drawing. And, you know, in the summertime, the biggest thing is the chiller. And that's pretty hard to get around. But I think if you shave the consumption off through electric, through the fixtures, we're gonna be really close.
The fixtures that are failing in the high, how long ago were those installed? Do you remember?
Before my time, possibly the referendum.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they actually been there quite a while, and it's not.
Yeah, I want to say 2014,
Okay.
I think was when that
They've
opened
gotten
up.
a good, almost a decade out of them. It's not like they're last year or something.
Right.
I would expect longer, those
Yeah.
particular ones, not the case.
And they get used an awful lot. And, I mean, that gym is used by the school and the community quite a bit, but I would hope we would have better performance out of our replacements.
In that time, the technology has come a long way with lighting fixtures. But
Does anyone have other questions about these updates? Or are you going to talk, or does Kevin want to talk about the whole of the 30-year plan as well?
So the Word document that I shared, I tried to simplify this so it was easier to follow along with. It goes right down column L of the 30-year plan, all the projects that we're talking about.
But I think to Rachel's point, and I think that's a good point, Rachel, looking at the total balance of the 30-year plan, I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago, we were kind of high-fiving, thinking that at that point the plan was fully funded. But since then, a number of things have happened. One, inflation has taken off, but more importantly, we continue to build the plan. And adding technology items was a big impact, but I think it's also a very important impact. So you can see that the plan is fully funded right now. That would go out to, I think it was 2032, 2033. And then, you know, after that, it would go into the red. Now, the intention is to continue to fund this plan. I do think in the budget building process, this is something that the board will have to discuss and consider. Also, if we do have any years where revenue outpaces expenditures, this is a perfect landing spot for that. Our fund balance is sufficient. We don't need to add to fund balance. But I do think it's very important moving forward that we continue to prioritize this plan so that into the future it will be funded. It's also important to note that these are all projections. Every year, you know, we go through the list, and if there's things that aren't in great need, we postpone them. Just because a roof is on the list for a certain year doesn't mean the roof is going to be replaced if it's still in decent shape. Same thing with the boiler. So, you know, this is a living, breathing document. I think it's very powerful, very terrific. I think it's good to know that we're fully funded out for close to about 10 years.
Any other questions on the 30-year plan update? No? Thank you for your time tonight, and good luck tomorrow. All right, next up we have the audit report.
So in board docs for the board review is the 100+ page audit report, and hopefully you've had some great reading pleasure looking through it. But I just want to comment, I know we comment over the summer, but I just want to really say I appreciate all the work of Leah, her staff, all the office staff, and all the building staff who help with the bookkeeping and preparing the materials for the auditors. It's a very extensive process, and I'm very happy that the audit was completed. and it was completed in good fashion with no major findings or anything like that. We have great processes here in the school district. Like other years, there are some notes that the auditors make, because we're not bigger and we don't have multiple departments in some areas. There are some segregation of duties items and things like that that are noted every year. Every year, I explain that to the board and mention my past experiences in school districts where the business office was a fraction of the size of what we have here. So we actually have very good overlap compared to many school districts in the state of Wisconsin. But I also understand the auditor's job is to point those things out. But unless there's any questions, really this is for your reading pleasure and to inform you that it's been completed, received, and it's wrapped up. Any questions?
I do have one quick question, I think it's a question. In the, I don't know how to say which document, but the one-page document that has the corrective action plans and findings essentially.
Okay.
When it's the corrective action plan and identifying the district as member resources, is that them identifying that, or is that our response to, like, who essentially like wrote the corrective action plan part? Like, is that something they said based on their findings, or is that our response to their finding segregation of duties?
This would be our response, which is a response that they would receive from pretty much every school district in the state of Wisconsin, that, due to our size and our resources, we don't have a whole separate office for accounts payable or whatever it might be. If we were a much larger organization, we could have one person in charge of every single piece of the accounting department. But because we have people doing multiple duties, now we still have protections in place and we still have oversight in place. But in a perfect scenario, you would have, that's the only thing that person would be doing. But, because we're a school and we don't have that kind of structure, so to answer your question, yes, that is our response, which is the response that they essentially provide for us.
Thank you.
It's been that way for as long as I've been on the board.
Yes. But it's a great question. I mean, it really is.
And it is hard work, and I'm glad there's people that do that for a living and that I don't and run all those numbers. So thank you.
Yes, I admire member crunching.
I think maybe one way of saying this is, another way of interpreting that corrective action plan statement is that Leah's doing the work of at least 2 people, maybe 3. So.
Leah and pretty much everyone in that office, yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of work that goes into preparing this audit, so I appreciate everything that you do. And it's, knowing that the only thing that they are flagging right now is that segregation of duties is a great comfort to us.
I don't want to belabor this. I know there's a national championship game coming on too. But, I think I do think this is a relevant point. So Jenny, her, she does all these board meetings, she runs all the elections. Well, she's also doing cash receipts for the school district. And that's one of the things that we do to try to segregate those duties. Well, how much can one person do? And that's why we have to continue to look at our scope of duties, because it is. We have a lot of people doing a lot of things, and it wouldn't shock me at some point, because of all the extra reporting, at some point we may need some extra help. We have been really stretched about as thin as it can go with the office personnel here at the ASC. And people don't see that, it's not something that's real visible, but it's real, and people are doing a lot.
Joe, is there ever collaborative, so say Eau Claire would review your stuff every 6 months, you'd review theirs every 6 months, or something like, when there's an officer involved thing, the neighboring department does the investigation, and is that something that would be leverageable?
It's really these daily duties that are the issue.
The management of the
right. The outside auditors come in once a year, and it's not that, once a quarter or once a year. It's really the daily duties where the issue comes into play.
All right, next up we have review and discuss the 2024 WASB resolutions for delegate vote.
So typically what we do is we make sure the board members have this, and we provide the opportunity Now, who is our delegate this year? Dominique is our delegate. So unless there's a particular resolution that the board feels the need to discuss, people can be directed to share their thoughts with Dominique, otherwise empower Dominique to represent the district at the convention. Any comments?
Thank you for agreeing to take on that role, Dominique.
Have fun.
Hopefully they've made some improvements over the last year's procedure.
I'm hoping for a really boring, like, efficient meeting, but I know that's wishful thinking.
Yeah, at this stage you might get it.
Angie's the one that set the record.
Bad last year. All right. And that brings us to the end. Items related to next meeting dates and board committees. Next week, January 17th through 19th, is the State Education Convention that some of us will be attending in Milwaukee. Special school board meeting January 22nd, health committee meeting on the 25th. And then just a reminder to folks to pay attention to the schedule of referendum presentations. And I know board members have been joining Joe for a number of those, but reminder to take a look at that and see if there are things that you can attend.
I do have a quick request, because I think Joey will not be at the convention, and last year we did like that Google Doc where we did summaries of what we attended, so if we could still do that, even if you're not there, I think it would be great.
Yep, I'd be happy to prepare that and share it with the members. And I'm staying back to do referendum presentations and attend school events. So I've been to the convention, I think 15 or 16 times, and I'll miss it, but have fun for me.
We'll represent you all. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right.
Get up, get going.